Welcome to Alpha Wolf's Den. It's here that we seek enlightenment. Alpha Wolf Trading recognizes that the most successful companies in the world at one point had no earnings. There's a lot more to a company than just its earnings report. That's why here at Alpha Wolf's Den, we interview executive teams. We want to get to know management. We want to understand the vision, the mission, the strategic drivers, the plan. We want to separate fact from fluff. This is not a paid for promotion interview. This is solely wanting to know the company's vision, mission, their critical success factors, their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities, and the threats. We want to know the long-term objective and the tactical initiatives that leadership plans to implement to achieve success. We want to know about the company's debt, the cap structure, what it's going to take for them to become self-sustaining and stop burning through cash. We want to know management's previous failures, challenges, hurdles, how they overcame them, or what they learned that they can apply in their current role. We're trying to identify the risk and the reward. And oftentimes, it's strong leadership that makes the difference between success and failure. Here at Alpha Wolf Trading, we are looking for the hidden gems. And I hope you enjoy this interview because this is one of those companies that I think could be a hidden gem. Please understand that this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. Hey everyone, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with another CEO interview. Very exciting company that I have been following for at least 5 years. I am involved in the stock. I own the stock. I think it's an incredible story. I think it was an incredible vision. And at some point, I think it's going to pay off, significant dividends for the guy that is leading the charge on this. And I want to thank you, Sean, for coming in and sharing your story with us.
Hey, thanks, Tim. My pleasure. Always happy to talk to you.
All right. So listen, the name of the company is Nightfood, and the ticker symbol is NGTF, right?
Yep.
Yep. NGTF on the OTC. So I came across Sean and Nightfood. Boy, it was so long ago. And it was actually a protein bar. I think it was that first caught my attention. And the whole thing was, the whole theme that you had, Sean, was eating snacks that are better for you, healthier for you before bed in order to help, you sleep better, not because they're like a prescription drug, but just
Right.
because they're better for you in the way that the ingredients interact with the body, just help you sleep better, right? So I thought that was really, really smart. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the fact is that people are going to be snacking at night anyway, and what you eat before bed matters. What you eat before bed is going to impact your sleep for better or for worse. So we're not trying to tackle the sleep problem. Like you mentioned, we're not a sleep aid. We're not trying to take people who don't snack at night and say, hey, if you want to sleep better, you should start snacking and you should start eating night food products. That's not what we're about. What we're about is, we know that over 85% of adults 18 to 54 are snacking at night anyway, right, on a regular basis. We know that the reason they're doing it is because humans are hardwired to consume excess calories before the fast. It's a survival mechanism. It's like filling up your gas tank before a long road trip. And the problem is that with modern day easy access to all the fat and all the sugar laden snacks that are out there, because these cravings are not going away and the food is so accessible, the most popular choices for people are cookies, chips, candy, and ice cream. And so what we came along and said, look, is people are going to snack at night anyway. What you eat at night impacts your sleep. Over the last 10 to 15 years, billions of dollars of market share have shifted from the legacy snack brands to these better for you snack food products, whether it's Smart Candy or Halo Top ice cream, or up and down the line. So, but knowing that almost half of all snacking takes place at night, there's no better for you snack companies that formulated for better sleep and with a sleep friendly angle. And that's what Nightfood does that's so different and so unique. And with an estimated over $50 billion a year being spent on snacks consumed between dinner and bed, we see a huge category here, which is sleep-friendly nighttime snacking. And my focus has always been on the category, Tim, and the inevitability of the category. And that's what keeps me going. Not everything we've done has succeeded, but I know the category has to exist because sleep is so important, because so many people are snacking at night, and because the research is pointing us in that direction. So we just need to keep working until we figure out how to break that category. And I think, as we're going to talk about, I think we've finally just gotten to that point this month.
It's really funny because I remember, so when I reached out to you, whenever that was, I mean, it was pre ice cream talk.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
It was. So when I reached out to you and we hopped on a call, one of the things that you said to me just really it hit home for me, what this product category could ultimately be at some point down the road. And the example that you had given me was the NyQuil.
Right. Yes.
Instead of DayQuil, right? And NyQuil, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say NyQuil was not instead of DayQuil. DayQuil
came after NyQuil. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And so what NyQuil did 51 or 52 years ago, there was already plenty of cold medicine on the market. And they came along and said, look, at night, you need different stuff. You need different ingredients. Your body has different needs. And within just a couple of years of launching NyQuil, I was going to say Nightfood, within a couple of years of launching NyQuil, it became the leading cold medicine because everybody was still taking whatever they were taking during the day, Dristan, Contact, whatever the brands were. But at night, like, how could you not take NyQuil? How could you not take the nighttime cold medicine at that point? And we think the same opportunity is there for snacks. And the challenge for us is, how do we get people to make that connection and understand, and it's hard when you're in a supermarket where there's hundreds of pints of ice cream or hundreds of different choices. That message doesn't come across. People are not in that discovery mode. But now we're rolling into hotels and we're rolling into some of the leading hotel company chains out there. And I think within, a few months, we're going to be adding more chains. And, by this time next year, or maybe even earlier, January, February, we're targeting being in 7,500 hotel properties across all the major brands. And when people see Nightfood sleep friendly, as you can see, behind me, it says sleep friendly on the package, and they see the Nightfood ice cream and Nightfood cookies and Nightfood chips, and it all says sleep friendly, and it's in the hotel, right? There's so many things that happen there. First of all, you don't have hundreds of different things to choose from in a hotel like a supermarket does. You've got a couple. Got a couple of different pints of ice cream, a couple of bags of chips, a couple of brands of cookies. So we're in everybody's consideration set there. And most importantly, it makes sense in the context, because people in the hotel lobby shop, they're not shopping on a Tuesday afternoon for all their groceries for the week. They're buying something for right now. And a lot of that consumption, as we know, is happening at night. So at that moment, night food makes a lot more sense. And it also endorses the fact that if the hotels care enough about your sleep, and we know they do, to put night food in, then there must be a connection there. And that's something that we believe once we get into the point where we are hotel industry standard, where you almost can't go into a hotel lobby shop without seeing night food snacks, and that's our goal. That really sets the table for us to launch into the more traditional, into the supermarkets and the other more traditional verticals. But that is the concept, is once you know night food and there's nighttime snacks out there and you're going to be snacking at night, how could you eat a daytime snack? Why would you have the Ben & Jerry's or the Haagen-Dazs? And if we can do what NyQuil did in that respect, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we just need to get that leverage in place, and the hotels we think are going to give it to us.
So listen, I will say this, we've had some ups and downs. I immediately got it when I talked to you. I just thought it was a brilliant idea, right? I mean, I just thought you're right. It's a massive addressable market, right? $50 billion. And then you start thinking about, just look at what's happening with the plant-based foods and all of this, better for you initiative, right? So you start thinking about it, and then you think about mental health, and you think about, one of the causes of stress for people is not getting a good night's sleep, right? So you look at the business of what what is their business? Their business is making sure that you have a very comfortable, very, as you're away from home, and they need to make it as close to home or a home-like experience as possible so that you feel comfortable and sleep well, right? And now, like you said, as opposed to having a slotting fee where you're stuck on a shelf in between 30 other brands,
right?
You are really condensed down to maybe two competitors or one competitor. Yeah. And the other interesting thing that's happening in the hotel space, which I think is going to help you as well, is the ability for the consumer to just grab something off the shelf 24/7 without having a cashier, right?
Yes.
And get what they want for whatever time of day it is. They come in from a meeting at midnight, they can buy some ice cream, right? And that's that. Who is the company that you are working with that's got that initiative going?
That's Impulsify, and they are really growing fast. COVID, they were in a great position, I guess, pre-COVID, and then when COVID hit, it was just perfect. So what they do for the hotels, a big part of what they do is the self-serve checkout, like what you're talking about. Hotels have a real revenue opportunity in their grab and go, but I don't know if you've ever been there, but I have. You want to grab a bottle of water or a little snack, and the person behind the counter is checking somebody in or checking somebody out, and you're in a rush, and you end up not buying something because you just don't want to have to wait, for that. So that's one piece of what Impulsify does. But the other thing they do is they track hotel industry sales data, and they know exactly what works. So they're the hotels, and I think they've got well over 1,000, and they're growing really fast. They inform the hotels and educate the hotels of what products sell best, how to merchandise those products. So they really turn that grab and go into a profit center and a revenue driver for the hotel properties. And we're really happy. We don't actually have even a formal relationship with Impulsify yet, because we're just now rolling into distribution, but we've got a great working relationship with them. We've become, business friends. And I just think it's a powerful trend that's going to work in our favor, because as more hotels adopt these self-serve checkouts, it's reason and growing better assortments of products, then there's just going to be more snacks and other stuff being purchased in the hotels. And that's going to help us move towards our target of $10 in night food revenue per hotel property per day.
So I saw that you had a news announcement yesterday.
We had one this morning and we had one 2 days ago. I think yes, we missed it, and we had one Friday.
Well, was it Friday? Okay, I know you
Yeah.
had, but whatever it was, you had a news announcement about a purchase order,
Mhm.
and then you had a news announcement about you're starting a pilot program, right?
A second
And,
one,
and
yes.
you were very specific in pointing out that this is not the same that we
Right.
reported 2 days ago, right?
Right. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. So within the last couple of weeks, we got our first. So we've been waiting on these purchase orders, Tim, for a long time. There were some COVID-related delays. The test on the first chain, or for the first hotel company, started over a year ago. And had it not been for the Delta variant in July, I think we would have been sitting here in almost May of 2022, and we would have been in hotel distribution for 9 months already, and we would have been in, I believe, thousands and thousands of properties. Delta hit, it put everything on pause. Then the whole project and whole program got expanded, which is good for us potentially, but it also led to these delays. So we had a whole bunch of things that we were doing based on that original timeline that we were given, which was in initial distribution by last summer. So there's a lot of potentially pent up activity, from this 9 months of conversations and laying the groundwork that we think is going to result in a pretty active period of time for us. But so last week we announced that we'd received the first purchase orders for the national rollout. Then we announced, and I'm forgetting one. We announced a couple of days ago that the pilot with this second global hotel company had started. So there's five hotel companies in the United States that account for over 26,000 properties, and that's Marriott, Hilton, Intercontinental, Choice, and Wyndham. Okay, and we have relationships at the corporate level with 2 of those 5 already. One of them is just starting their first pilot. The other one did their pilot a year ago and is now rolling us into the first of their chains. We are hoping and expecting for more. And the other thing that I think is going to happen, Tim, is as we get into a few more properties and once we're in distribution, I don't think each chain is going to need or feel the need to do a pilot. I think once we start having sales, a track record of sales across a few brands, they're just going to know that it's something they need to put in. They're not going to need to test it. If it's selling well in Hotel X and Hotel Y, it should sell in Hotel Z. And once we get there, I think the expansion is going to really pick up speed.
I think it's a fantastic strategy to build your brand, right? I mean, that's how people are gonna find you there, and then they're gonna, and I can tell you, the ice cream is pretty damn good because I've ordered it and tried it, and it's great ice cream, right? So it's not like it's one of those better for you things that doesn't taste all that great, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's good ice cream. So, and if people have a better sleep experience than they may have when they're traveling, that's really going to resonate with people, I think, right? So it's a good ice cream, it's better for you, and I slept better, I think, right? I mean, that's a powerful thing.
It's the trifecta. And it's not just ice cream. The other really interesting thing about hotels that we didn't mention, and I don't know how much time we have, but I'll talk all day.
You can go as long as you like, man. This is your time.
Okay, so I'll just bring this up, which I think is really interesting, and it didn't occur to me at the first, it didn't occur to me right away. But so when you walk into that supermarket and you're looking to buy the ice cream that you normally buy, it's there, and you're not looking at other stuff. the amazing thing is in the hotels, because they curate a much smaller set, they're not looking to have everything for everybody. They need to keep a focused assortment for a lot of reasons. They don't have the freezer space, and it's not the business that they're in. So even if your favorite choice is probably not going to be there at the hotel, Tim. And in other words, even if you're a Ben & Jerry's guy, Ben & Jerry's might have 40 flavors in your local supermarket, right? But in that hotel, they're only going to have typically 2 or 3. So, right. The odds of if you love Cherry Garcia and they might not have it. So for anybody, all those people are kind of forced to consider what is available, right? So
they want ice cream. It doesn't that. I mean, if the choices are limited, it doesn't matter. They still want ice cream, right?
Yeah, right. So they want to satisfy that craving, and so right away, because your favorite choice is not there, you are going to be much more open to various options. It would be different if the hotels had 500 SKUs of ice cream like a typical supermarket might. It's still probably a better environment because of the context than the supermarket would be, but that curated set really is a huge benefit in the sense that it's forcing people to be more adventurous because their go-to choice is probably not there, and there might feel like there's just as much risk for you to try Chubby Hubby because you're a Cherry Garcia guy as there would be to try Nightfood's Cookies and Dreams or Midnight Chocolate. So why not?
Right. So I think one of the things that's kind of exciting that you and I talked really quickly about prior to turning the camera on was that you're working on some new products.
Yes. Yeah, we've got a goal of you can't grow revenue by adding more SKUs in the hotel. And you can't grow awareness. In other words, the difference between having 1 flavor of Nightfood pints versus 2 versus 3 versus 4, that's not going to be a revenue mover. That could theoretically, you'd probably sell about the same amount of ice cream. It would just be spread out over more SKUs. So the way to drive more consumer trial, to drive more revenue, to drive more profit, and to drive more awareness is to be in various formats. Because like you said, if somebody wants ice cream, they're going in there, they're looking for ice cream. If somebody wants chips or candy or cookies, which are also really high on the list of nighttime snacks, when they see Nightfood ice cream, they may decide, "Woo, sleep-friendly ice cream, that's interesting, I want to try it." But most people are not going to move away from their format. If they're looking for a bag of chips, they're going to buy the chips that they choose. So what we want to do over the course of the next couple of months and into 2023 is, in addition to Nightfood pints, which are rolling in now, we want to have Nightfood ice cream sandwiches. We want to have Nightfood cookies, and ultimately chips, candy, and maybe even a reintroduction of the nutrition bars. And we want it to be, when you go into that hotel, if there's a pot of coffee out right next to it, there's typically an orange pot of decaf, right? And we want it to be like that. The hotel would not think typically to put out a pot of coffee without putting out the decaf. And so when they put out the Chips Ahoy, we want the Nightfood cookies right next to it. When they put out the Pringles or the Lay's, we want the Nightfood chips right next to it. And same thing with the Ben & Jerry's, Nightfood's right there. And that's the way it should go, that there's a sleep-friendly option of everything that people are automatically reaching for anyway.
So let's talk about, just so people understand, Sean isn't the expert on, putting together recipes for sleep-friendly snacks, right? You've got a whole crew of experts that have helped you get to this place, right?
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, we've got a team of sleep and nutrition experts, Dr. Michael Bruce, Dr. Michael Grandner, Dr. Lauren Brock. I think they're in the deck. Anybody who wants to can go to ir.nightfood.com and check out our deck. That's the slide there. So there's general concepts that we know, you want to be lower glycemic, you want to have more prebiotic fiber, less sugar, more protein, and then there's certain ingredients that work well in certain formats and don't work in others. So, what makes our ice cream sleep friendly is not necessarily going to be the same things that we add to our chips or our cookies to make them sleep friendly. So sleep friendly could mean different things across formats. But the idea is always, hey, if people are going to eat blank, cookies, chips, candy, ice cream, if people are going to eat blank at night anyway, what can we do to make it a great way to satisfy those cravings? It's got to taste great. Like you said, we don't want people to feel like they're sacrificing. It's got to taste great, and it's got to be more sleep friendly. And that's our mission. And like you said, it's not just me.
So just to give some examples, it's just some little subtle things. For example, the cherries that you use for the cherries Garcia, right, are, I can't remember what cherry it was, but it was more sleep friendly, right?
Right. So our flavor is Cherry Eclipse. It's our version of Cherry Garcia.
Yeah.
And the kind of cherries we use are Montmorency cherries, which are tart cherries, and they're naturally higher in melatonin than regular cherries might be. Our coffee flavor is called cold brew decaf, and we really use decaffeinated coffee in our. I don't know that anybody's ever done that. To make coffee ice cream with decaffeinated coffee. So yeah, so those are the things. And yeah, I mean, you say subtle, I don't know, I think those are pretty cool. And when, in fact, when we went on QVC last month and we sold out in 8 or 9 minutes, we sold 9,600 pints. We made sure, and even those are not our most popular flavors, the Cherry Eclipse and the cold brew decaf, but the nutritional ingredient choices that we made really advanced the story. So when we were choosing with QVC the 4 flavors to put on as part of our bundle, those were obvious choices for us, because I think the concept of decaf in particular really helps people understand what we're all about. And the cherries that have higher melatonin, like I said, I think it helps people understand our commitment to what we're doing, but also the very subtle but important ways that you can make something more sleep friendly without a big sacrifice, or without any sacrifice.
Yeah, I think one of the things too was like higher calcium, right?
Mm-hmm. Calcium, magnesium, zinc, vitamin B6, absolutely.
Right. So I mean, I think all of those things are extremely important, and I think, I absolutely agree with you that there needs to be like an aisle that is for like nighttime, right? I mean, it makes sense to me. It's just very logical, and I do think it's going to happen. And I've watched this thing for a long time. Nobody can ever say that you don't work your butt off, right? Because you don't give up. I mean, you first got into, a couple of specialty, grocery stores, and then you got into Walmart, and now you're, looking at what I think is going to probably be the thing that really puts you on the map is this hotel thing.
Yeah, I think so. When you have something like we have, which is probably a little bit early, the market is not primed and necessarily thinking about, I wish there was a snack that I could eat that would be better for my sleep. Like we probably went into supermarkets, a year, 2, maybe even 3 years too early. And it's such an expensive place to do business. But being in the hotels, it takes a lot of the line items away. Like you mentioned slotting before, but the other thing, so you don't have to pay the hotels to go in, like you have to pay the supermarkets. The other thing is running price promotions, right? When you go into the supermarket and something is on sale, it's not the supermarket that's absorbing that. They're not eating from their margin. It's the manufacturer that covers that. And that's true whether it's Ben & Jerry's, whether it's Nightfood, and then advertising. So we don't have to do any of those things really in the hotel. So it's a much greater gross margins and much greater net margins in there. But most importantly, it's the context and it's the curation of the set, where we're now in an environment where sleep-friendly snacks make sense, as opposed to in a supermarket where people just might not get it yet. And I always go back to the category. You said I don't give up and I'm hardworking. I've believed for a long time that the category itself is inevitable. And when you feel a sense of inevitability, I think it makes it easier to keep going. There is no maybe in my mind. And in fact, it's gotten more definitive over the last few years when, you see last year, Unilever announced that they were doing a big research project to identify how nutrition can impact sleep. Pepsi is on the record of talking about this. Nestle has mentioned.
Didn't somebody come out with, didn't one of those come out with like a drink that was
Yep.
like
Pepsi
sleep?
did. And in my opinion, the mistake that they made is the mistake that almost killed us 10 years ago, which was they tried to position it as a sleep aid, like a sleep product. And they didn't come out and they tried to be subtle about it, but here's the point, Tim. If you are drinking or eating a product specifically because you want this sleep benefit, I don't think that product has any legs at all to scale. People would rather, so in other words, if you have a beverage that has melatonin in it and L-theanine, and the person then has to buy the drink and then drink it before bed, first of all, they have to like the flavor, they have to be willing to spend the money. They could just buy melatonin pills and L-theanine pills and eat or drink whatever the hell they want, right? So I think every company up and down the line, and the mistake we almost made at the advice of a consultant early on, was trying to turn this into using food and beverage to deliver better sleep and better sleep ingredients. And we're looking at it the other way. We're saying people are going to snack at night anyway. What they're eating at night is going to impact their sleep anyway, for better or for worse. Let's allow them to continue to snack at night, but without screwing up their sleep. And so it might seem subtle. And sometimes when I talk to somebody, they'll be like, yeah, I get it. And then like a week later, they'll come back with the same, and I have to explain it again the way I see it. But that's a real important difference. And I think that, Nestle also invested, or I'm assuming they invested. There was a product out there that was a little candy that became part of a Nestle incubator like 3 years ago. And they were supposed to relaunch and they disappeared. And all of these guys, they're trying to give people better sleep in a snack or in a drink. But the point that I'm making is those are things that you would be adding to your routine, right? Not replacing, right? So what we're doing is we're helping people replace, and we are not focused on the sleep problem. We're focused on the snack problem. And something really interesting, I listened to an episode of a podcast called How I Built This. And there was an entrepreneur on, and he was developing a line of skincare and shaving products for Black men. And he went out there and he said something I think that was really interesting. I hope I don't have my episodes confused, but he said, because he was first, and I guess he was struggling a little bit, it actually made it harder. He was being asked about competition. And because he was struggling a little bit, it made it harder for other companies that might want to enter his space to raise money. And I think it's the same thing for us, because we've been out there so public for so long, right? I don't think anybody's going to be able to compete with us, because they're not going to want to. And the big companies, that I mentioned, the global consumer goods and food and beverage companies, are not going to want to launch in the space, because they're going to assume that it's a bad idea until we succeed. And then once we succeed,
that's what it really becomes, right? So I am starting to see more and more companies talk about it or flirt with the concept, right? But are they going to go all in on something that hasn't been proven? So, they got this guy out there that's got this company that says Nightfood, if he can't make it, forget it, right?
Yeah.
So this is like, it really is up to Sean and your team to really make this category the category. And then once that starts to become evident, you're just going to get gobbled up for some multiple of whatever, right?
I think we're really well insulated in that respect. I don't think anybody with any capital is gonna deploy it until we prove out that it's viable. And by that point, and this is why hotels are so important. And I started to talk about this, but I got sidetracked. So if we were just trying to make this work, and we were able to make it work, let's say in Walmart, right? And we can talk about that in a minute, why I think it didn't really click. We talked about part of it, but we could make it work in the supermarket. A lot of brands have, but if we were able to do that, we'd still be really exposed to competition coming in, big guys paying big slotting, getting next to us, running more ads, price discounting their way, and eroding our ability to dominate the category. But if alternatively, if we build this in the hotels, right, first, where the sets are curated, where you can't just buy your way in, the hotel has no advantage to have, Ben and Jerry's PM right next to the night.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So we're so insulated there. And then the consumers, millions of consumers walking through 20 or 30,000 hotels on any given day, seeing Nightfood there, when they start seeing other stuff popping up in the supermarket next to us, we're insulated. We have the endorsement of the hotel industry, which is in the sleep business. So I think it's a really insulated position. Even if somebody did want to compete and not gobble us up, they would be, I don't think they would ever be able to get the street cred that we have if we're in all of the hotels that everybody's known the names of, for 100 years.
Right. No, I mean, look, you've done some interesting things, man. I mean, yeah, the grocery stores, I've kind of felt as though you were going to have a tough time with any of the grocers. I mean, this is not an easy thing, right? You've got some big brands with some good ice cream, may not be good for you, but it tastes good,
yeah.
Right? And there's a lot to choose from. And like you said, it's not only the ice cream, it's all the different flavors. I mean, there's a bazillion of them, right? And Chunky Monkey or what, I mean, there's just so much stuff. It's like mind overload, right? Mm-hmm. And then thinking about switching from your Chunky Monkey to better for you, sleep friendly ice cream. I don't know if that's really going to be something people are going to want to do, right?
Well, even if you want to do it, I mean, here's the challenge, right? Even if you want to do it and you try Nightfood and you go and you're like, hey, that was pretty good. And you go in the next time, all of a sudden the Ben and Jerry's is on sale, 2 for $8, right? And we're $4.99 or $5.99 a pound. You just go right back to it. It's a bloodbath. And, right. There's there's a handful of public snack companies that I follow. And some of them, I mean, they're losing $20 or $30 million a year on 20 or $30 million in sales, which means, they're spending 40 in costs and expenses to generate $20 million. And there's really often no light at the end of the tunnel because the margins are just not going to be strong enough. You can't pull yourself out of that. And with Walmart, we went in there, we were contacted by Walmart. We didn't solicit Walmart. And the buyer that reached out to us had a vision for us. We were the official ice cream of the American Pregnancy Association. Walmart really caters and look to bring those pregnant households in. It's a very valuable shopper. And we were anticipating being able to do a lot of pregnancy focused integrated marketing there. And shortly after the decision was made to bring us in, the buyer left and we were with a new buyer and they didn't share that same vision. And so a lot of the tools that we were expecting to be able to deploy were not at all at our disposal. We had to scramble. We threw a lot of money at it for a small company like ours. But, I think that being able to go into Walmart in 2 or 3 years, when we're in 20 or 30,000, I mean, remember, there's 56,000 hotels out there. that's a lot more than the number of conventional supermarkets. There's less than 30,000 conventional supermarkets. So, I think that when we're if we get where I think we can, which is where pretty much every hotel selling snacks is selling night food, that's our goal. Then yeah, I think the Walmarts and the Targets and the Krogers and all that will all fall into place, and we'll go in there with a ton of recognition, a ton of cachet and street cred. And, until then, we're going to focus on the hotels because the margins are there. And again, there's these 5 companies out there that control, over 40%, over 26,000 properties across 45 brands. And, we just think that's very, very fertile and profitable ground for us right now.
Well, we're gonna expand your thinking a little bit here, because that's what I like to do. Actually, when I look at this, and I was going to bring up the pregnancy thing because I thought that was another pretty ingenious marketing, because who 90% of the time buys all the groceries for the household, right? And if during a pregnancy you gain a customer because it's better for her and it's better for her child, and she's eating that for 9 months, right? And that's what she's buying for the household, then why would she switch back to anything else after that, right? I mean, so I really thought it was pretty ingenious in the way that you were partnering there. And that's what I go back to. You don't give up, right? I mean, you just don't give up, and you're very out of the box thinking. And I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And I just want to point out, so the pregnancy thing, that announcement was late February of 2020. And so our whole marketing plan was around, we were going to be attending the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists conference that spring. We were starting to set up, where they have these baby boot camps or Lamaze classes, all of these things, all these in-person trainings and events. And that's when COVID hit. So again, the best laid plans sometimes don't come together. So our whole model around the pregnancy piece, we were forced to try to do that virtually. We are now going back, now that things are getting back towards normal. We're going back to focusing on those geographic markets where we have supermarket distribution, Chicago through Jewel Osco and Pacific Northwest with Market of Choice and Metropolitan Market. And we're working with local doulas, local lactation consultants and birthing clinics and imaging centers, and getting the word out through those outlets. And we think we're starting to see some more traction there. And that's a very focused part of what we're doing. And we think that the pregnancy piece can be a very valuable thing for us in growing, because that is, like you mentioned, that's the most motivated consumer you can find, I think. And when you're trying to compete in that supermarket environment that we just talked about, you really need that consumer to have a really strong reason to go with a startup brand and to stick with it when the other stuff is more familiar or maybe on sale or things like that.
You even came up with a what was it, pickles? What was it? What was the ice cream that you came up with? It was
pickles for 2.
Yeah.
And so that's an example, right? So Walmart, we never intended to try to put pickles for 2 into retail. It was a publicity move. We were the official ice cream of the American Pregnancy Association. We created the pickles for 2 flavor in order to, again, advance the story. We wanted pregnant women who might choose to order online to be able to get it. And we wanted to give the pregnant women something to talk about, and the media, the pregnancy media, something to talk about. And we got all that. But, because the buyer at Walmart was thinking in terms of pregnancy, we didn't even present that flavor. But when we announced that flavor on our Instagram, 15 or 20 minutes later, he emailed me and said, "Hey, how come you guys didn't present this flavor?" I said, "Well, we weren't really thinking of it for retail. It wasn't part of our thing. We presented our 8 traditional flavors." He said, no, I think we should put it in. I said, are you going to support, you're going to support it? You're going to help us? Because he goes, let's test it. Okay, great. So sure enough, when we got the matrix from Walmart, pickles for two was the flavor that they put in every store that we went into. And there were some stores, there were 10 stores that only had pickles for two. There was a couple of hundred stores that had pickles and one of the other flavors like decaf. And without the pregnancy campaign to support that, it made no sense. And again, we tried to make the best of it. We did do testing that indicated there's a lot of pickle fans out there that would try it. And we thought that that could leverage over to our other flavors, but we just didn't have enough variety. There were so many stores that only had pickles plus one or two other flavors. I think that was like 75% of our stores with Walmart. There was no way to leverage it. And the pickle flavor, the repeat purchase rate was not strong enough because it's pickle flavor. So it was just a mismatch of strategies that was really beyond our control. But that's not happening. So at the hotel level, it is a cohesive strategy. We're working with the hotels strategically to develop marketing. We're working with hotels to develop products. And we think that it's going to be a very collaborative effort because they care how people sleep and they want their guests to know. Even the guests, Tim, that don't buy Nightfood, they will think better of the hotel just because the hotel is offering that. Trying to attack sleep in the room is great. Now you've got this other lever. The hotel is doing it. Even people that don't buy the product, I think the hotel is elevated in their eyes as being, out of the box and trying to do everything they can for their guests.
So I'm thinking about and you and I have talked about this in the past, or I've reached out to you before when cannabis was becoming the big thing, right? And I'm not a pot guy or cannabis. I'm just not that guy. I can't. I have an allergic reaction to it. But I had COVID recently. I got COVID, and I got to tell you, I've never felt anything like that in my life. My body ached from my toes to my hair.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was horrible. And I actually want to do nothing. I mean, I was taking everything, ibuprofen, a DayQuil, NyQuil, every possible thing that I could take to try and, lessen the body aches. Nothing worked. But then a friend of mine brought over CBD gummies.
Okay.
Unbelievable. I mean, at first I didn't think they were working because but it took a while. Unbelievable how, literally took my aches and pains away, right? And I'm not promoting, but what I'm saying is there was definitely an effect there.
Mm-hmm. And
right now the biggest challenge is legalization, right? And federal legalization. But here in Las Vegas, we are legal, right, for recreational and medical, but we also have no place on the strip where you can actually, smoke marijuana. There is no place that you can't if they have the gaming, right? But now they're going to open smoking lounges, but they can't be they're within so many feet of a casino, which is kind of crazy. So all these people that come here, right, and there are a lot of them that come here for like a cannabis vacation, but now there are hotels that are opening up that don't have gaming and smoking lounges that don't have, right, that are going to be these cannabis lounges, which I think would also probably an interesting place to have ice cream, right? And they're going to become, and I'm not suggesting that you put the CBD in those. I'm saying because it's a snacking facility is what it is. Because it increases your desire to snack, right? I'm not saying you have to put cannabis in there to be in there because they're going to have all kinds of other food there, right? So just another avenue for you to potentially, because it's going to get bigger, and I do think we are going to have federal legalization. I think that's going to happen. right?
I think so too, and we've got our eyes on that. We've talked about it a little bit in the past, but yeah, there's still too many regulatory hurdles right now to start formulating products, in my opinion. Around that market, and that could change relatively quickly. But we're going to monitor it, and we'll see. And we've got some assets in place, but really the focus now is if we build the hotel business the way I think it can be built over the next, really starting in a couple of weeks, and very aggressively through the spring and summer and into the early part of next year. I just think the explosiveness, because there's so much concentration, again, with those 5 chains that have 26,000 properties between them that we've targeted. It's just, it's really explosive. And our goal is, we want to force the industry to hit that tipping point as soon as we can. So getting into that first chain, getting into our first, I remember now the PR, the news release that we put out on Friday was our relationship with Remington Hotels, which is a leading hotel management company. And they own over 120 hotels across Hilton, Intercontinental, Marriott's, all the other major hotel companies. And, by entering into these relationships where we are now a recommended brand to those 120 portfolio properties, and there's a lot more of those hotel management companies. So, when we get into whether it's, 1,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 properties, at some point we think we're going to reach that tipping point where every hotel is going to feel like, it's at the point where they need to put Nightfood in. So 100% of our effort right now, well, maybe not 100%, we're still, supporting the supermarkets that we're in. But almost all of our effort is going to forcing the hotel industry to that tipping point. Once we get that done, again, $10 in Nightfood revenue per property per day is our target. There's a lot of hotels out there, 56,000. $10 is easy math for anybody to do. And that's what we're trying to get to. From there, I think, we can go in any direction that we want.
In terms of distribution for your product to these hotels, is that you've got all the logistics worked out on that, and the math makes sense?
Yeah, so there's one distributor that is the leading distributor of food and beverage in the hospitality space to the hotels, and that is our distributor. We put out that news today that we have received purchase orders from all 21 of their distribution centers around the United States. There are other secondary distributors that I think we will start to funnel into as our footprint grows and as we add more formats, right? For ice cream, there's distributors out there that are not ice cream capable, but when we're doing chips or cookies or candy, that other distributors could bring us on. But I mean, we're in with the biggest distributor in the hotel space already, and that's where our POs come from. The POs are not coming from the hotels.
Right.
The hotels don't order from us directly. The hotels go to the distributor and say, hey, we want to put Nightfood in our properties. Please start carrying it so we can order it from you. And that's when the POs come. So the POs come from the distributor. That's our customer. And it's the largest distributor of food and beverage into the hotel vertical.
Got it. Okay. Let's talk about the cap structure of the company. And so where are you currently sitting in terms of, shares fully diluted outstanding?
Well, there's a little over 90 million shares issued and outstanding. We did a Series A round, not a Series A round, a Class A, a preferred, it's a Class B shares. And that was a raise that we did last year. We cleaned out all the convertible debt. And I think there's about 15 million more shares when those people convert. And then there's warrants out there. The warrants all have a strike price of 29.5 cents, 29.52 cents. And there's, I have to do the math. I think it would be 25 million warrants. And again, but for those warrants to be executed, that
Then,
means that we raised about $7 million onto the balance sheet.
okay. And speaking of the balance sheet, how are you doing on cash?
Yeah, we've got enough cash to I think get us through the next couple of key hotel announcements and inflection points, and into the late summer. We are going to be looking to raise capital again. We've got some investment banks that we're talking to because of the distribution developments that are going on. We don't need a lot of cash, but there's that point where distribution is growing, revenues and profits can be growing, but you still are not cash flow positive yet. And that's a very realistic scenario that we're looking at for late summer into the fall. So we don't need a lot of cash, and we're looking at some various options. But once we do turn profitable and get to that cash flow positive, we expect the rate of profitability to increase pretty significantly as we continue to add additional chains at that point, additional hotel properties.
So I will say this. I mean, it's not. So you're talking fully diluted. You're looking at what, about just over 100 million, maybe 100 million.
I would say probably between 120 and 130.
Right. So.
But again, that assumes all the warrants are out, which means we raised $7.5 million at almost 30 cents.
Right. So if the warrants are exercised, then yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of dilution, but you also raised $7 million. So,
and for the warrants to be exercised, Tim, it means we probably need to be trading in the mid to upper 30s.
Right.
Right. So anybody thinking now about the potential dilution, right, when the stock is at 17 or 18 cents, should be thinking about, well, that dilution doesn't occur unless the stock basically doubles, So if you're going to count the shares, I think, if I'm sitting in the shoes of somebody who might be thinking about making an investment, if you're going to think about, the dilution that comes with those shares, you're operating under the assumption that your stock just doubled.
Right. And then at the same time, if they did execute, right, if you did wind up having the warrants, then the conversation we just had a minute and a half ago about needing to raise capital
disappears.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So those are a couple of things to maybe think about.
It all works. It all interplays. Yeah.
Right. All right. So what I want to do is I want to, so I wasn't a technical guy. I've always been a fundamental guy. I've been investing for 30 years. So I couldn't understand why anybody would, the charting, the tech guys, I was like, how does looking at a chart going to help me determine what's going to happen in the future? Right.
Yeah.
And then I took a course 15 years ago, and now the very first thing I look at is the chart.
Okay, I don't know. I'm going to learn a lot here, I'm sure, because I don't know anything about this.
The reason that, I guess the best way to describe technical analysis is it's like an X-ray. It kind of tells you where things have been, what's happened, where your levels of resistance and support are, and there's actually memory in price with stocks. I mean, that's
okay.
All these areas of support and resistance get determined, and it's like scary. It really is kind of like scary, spooky, accurate how these things play out, right? So what's really important to me is the long-term trend of the stock, and that's where you just basically take this point here and you come all the way down here, and what's the angle of that slope? Well, it's not really that good, right? So it's in a long-term downward trend. Longer the trend, the stronger it is, right? So, but then at the same time, you've got what I would call, you're kind of trading in a box is what I call it, right? So if you look at this area right here, that is really just kind of it's almost like a base, right? That it's a platform that it's like a launching pad, actually. Mm-hmm. And the longer that it kind of trades within that box, in that zone, it's just building out a base until there's something that's going to break it out of that box, either to the upside or to the downside, right? I don't think Sean's going away. I think Sean eventually, and look, like I said, you're trying and you're thinking out of the box, and this is not an easy category. This is a tough go, and creating a whole new way of thinking about snacks and having that resonate with people, having an aisle, and it doesn't even have to be snacks, really. I mean, you could have a night food aisle of dinner items. I mean, it literally could be a whole category in itself, right? It doesn't have to be just snacks. It could be like any food that you eat at night is in this aisle, right? So I'm looking at it, and I really do think that this is, if it isn't this one, I don't know what your next rabbit that will be that you pull out of a hat, but I really do think that this makes sense to me, right? This tie up. So I think it's going to be the one that puts you on the map. That being said, you're trading at right around 17. That's not by accident. There's actually some support in this area that goes back to 2016, right? Mm-hmm. Of this, what is that, 17 cents or so? This is kind of a big area for you guys, right? Going back to 2017, technical guys are looking at that area as a significant area of support between 15 and 17 cents, right? Wow. So you're building that base, and then you get this, you've had a couple of pops up to, what is that, 50 cents, right around 50 cents or so. You had this huge run way back here. And I've participated in all these, by the way, just so you know, right? I mean, and I have taken Nightfood's been very good to me from an investment standpoint. I always keep a piece of Nightfood because I know that eventually Sean is going to hit the home run, right, the grand slam. I know it's going to happen, but I don't stay fully in my position. I in and out of it, right? Mm-hmm. That's my business. But I believe that the next time, when you can actually get back above this area, this, what is that? Well, it isn't even that. It's right around 40 cents, 40 to 50 cents. When you can get back above that and stay above it, right? Close above it. I don't care what it does throughout a trading day. I mean, it closes above 50 cents and then maybe gets a little pop up and comes back and retests that 50 cent area and holds again. That's when this bad boy is probably going on a much bigger run, and the start of a long-term trend, but in a different direction, right? Mm-hmm. So multiple years, long-term trend this way. When you have a break of a long-term trend this way, that's the beginning. And it can last for a long, long time, right? That is a very powerful break. And that's the one I've been looking for and I'm waiting. I'm a very patient man, Sean. I'm a very patient man. But, here's the deal. My philosophy is this. You can have a great concept. You can have a great service. You can have a great product. If you don't have great leadership that's passionate about what they're doing, I think the odds are stacked against you. Okay. And I know your passion. I can email you early in the morning. I can email you late at night, and I will get a response almost immediately from you. Right. And that, no, it's not to a fault, because you'll be amazed at how many CEOs are not responsive to emails and to me, everything I do is strategic, and everything is a litmus test. It's like, okay, I send you an email, I'm a shareholder, and I don't care if I own 5 shares. I send you an email, and if you don't respond, and I'm trying to maybe help or introduce you to somebody that might be able to help or whatever, and I don't get something in return, I have to ask myself, this is the guy that's leading the charge, right? And if he's not passionate about it, or if he's not responding to emails, is that the way he is with everybody, right? And then I start to question, well, how big do I want to get involved in this stock if I'm not feeling real comfortable that leaders, there has never been a company that I have ever met that has said to me, Tim, we are a terrible company. We are never going to make money. We're going to dilute the shit out of you until your eyes bleed. And, you know, someday we're probably just going to wind up shutting down shop. Nobody ever has said that to me. They all have unbelievable sounding stories, right? But there are key fundamental things that I look for that separate the guys that are really good at selling the sizzle and the guys that are good at selling the sizzle and eventually bring the steak, right? Very different. And you have to, the only way you can find that out is by interaction, right? Yeah. And that's the only way you can find out, and you build trust over time. So does he do what he says he's going to do, right? And you do what you say. It may take longer, right? And I understand that because you're not in control of it. Who could have thought COVID who knew a pandemic was coming, right? If you can survive through a pandemic, Sean, and a hotel industry that basically shut down and was empty, right? If you can survive through that and continue to move forward, come up with new ideas, new strategy, at some point it's going to resonate, and at some point you are going to be successful. You won't take no for an answer, right? You think that you know. You said it at the beginning of this interview. When you believe in it, it's easy to be passionate about it. And there is no one that will convince you that there shouldn't be a category for Nightfood, right?
The word I used, Tim, is inevitable. That word, makes it easy to push forward, because the only way this doesn't happen is if I stop.
Right. And you're not going to stop. So I look at it like this, you've got the chart. It doesn't, to the technical guys, it doesn't look good, but what's your downside risk? Your downside risk, it goes to 0 from, 17 cents. What's your upside potential? That's the way I view things. What is my risk? What is my potential for reward? I would suggest that if you wind up getting that grand slam, the potential for reward is substantial, right? And you've taken you have bought shares in the open market, a significant amount, right? So you're putting your money where your mouth is, right? Yes.
I haven't disposed of any shares. The only shares I ever disposed of was to an attorney to do some financial planning to set up, for my family, so that my shares were handled the right way. And that was, I think, 7 years ago. I bought some stock. It's a lot of money for me because, I went years without pulling a salary from the company. And even when I started, it's only $6,000 a month. So I'm not making a lot of money. I bought a few $1,000s worth of stock last year. This is everything for me financially is in this company. I've been at this for 12 years now, and I put in a couple $100,000 when I started, and even that was converted. There was a lot of that was structured as debt initially, and we converted it to stock. The majority of that ended up getting converted to stock at 25 cents. So, if you want to think about, that conversion, when we do hit certain milestones, I earn warrants those warrants are at 50 cents when we do our first $1 million quarter, our first $3 million quarter. And even I'm fully locked up. Every year I've done a lockup. You've probably seen the announcement every year, like clockwork. And in exchange for my agreement to lock up, I get 12-month warrants at 30 cents. So, and the stock's at 17. So I'm not doing anything other than just betting on the future, because I know it's coming. It's inevitable.
There's that word again, right?
That word.
All right, listen, Sean, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I believe that I'm not telling anybody to buy the stock. It's not what I do. I'm not a financial advisor. What I'm suggesting is that, I followed this company for 5, 6, 7, I don't know how many years. I've been involved in it. It's treated me well, but it hasn't given me what I thought it would have given me yet. But I can tell you the reason why we're doing this interview today is because I think you're getting extremely close to that inflection point that puts this stock on a whole new trend.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Tim. It's really interesting. So when we're able to announce the name of the global hotel company that we're working with, I think it's going to change people's perceptions. I think it means something when you can say a name out loud. And we can say all day long, it's a global hotel company. They're one of the largest. They've got thousands of properties in the US, all that stuff. But I think that, I don't know if there's an element of doubt or uncertainty. We're expecting to be able to say that name out loud pretty soon once we are rolled into their properties. And I think that's going to change the perception that people have about everything that we've been doing. And I also think it's going to help us with the next hotels that we're not yet in partnerships with. Because when you're doing business with very influential entities, it does move the needle. It's more than just going from 0 to 1. It's basically, if those guys are putting Nightfood in, well, we need to consider it. So I think.
Let me ask you a question about your pilot program. With the one chain, you said it lasted like almost a year, right, or 9 months or something.
The test itself was probably lasted about 5 or 6 months. Okay. And then when they initially were ready to launch, it got dragged out because that's when Delta hit. Right. And then the scope of the project changed. So I wouldn't say the test lasted 12 months. The test itself lasted 5 or 6 months. And then I think, so we just announced the test with a second global hotel company. I don't think the test is going to be as long. I don't know for sure, but they made the decision to start testing very quickly. And I'd be surprised. And I think any subsequent tests, I think the test will get shorter and shorter. And ultimately, I think there'll be no need to test. Once we get into a certain number of chains and a certain number of hotels, what are you testing for anymore? Just launch. Right.
No, I think this is a very exciting time. And if you don't want to buy the stock, that's fine. Put the stock on your radar. Just start paying attention to the story. I've got the investor relations email right underneath the logo here. Sign up, get the email alerts, get the press releases sent directly to your email, and follow the story. That's all I'm suggesting, right? All right, I'm gonna shut this down. Sean, thank you again for coming in and doing this. And what I would like to do is maybe when you have some other significant developments that occur, like maybe some of those new products you're talking about, come back and do a follow-up, huh?
My pleasure, Tim. Always my pleasure.
All right, hold on 1 second. Let me shut this down. Hey there, all you stock market junkies. Thanks for tuning in to yet another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Trading. Today we had CEO Sean Folkson from Nightfood Inc., ticker symbol NGTF. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. Why not give us a share? And while you're at it, how about giving us a follow? Till next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.